Of course, yesterday was a holiday, Republic Day, but today is Tuesday, July 3rd, and all you lazy ones have to get to work and be productive after yesterday's holiday.
So a lot of people were thinking that it was going to continue today.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately,
it's interesting.
Excuses that my place flooded.
Oh no, but I mean, these days you can't use flooding as
No,
an
you
excuse.
can't.
No,
you know, Bright,
no,
interestingly, talking about flooding, you know, out there in China, the children who were, trapped in a cave.
Very good
and
news
the
this
resources
morning.
that have been pulled together to get them out. And immediately I saw it, I said, well, if you're in Ghana, unfortunately, by now you'd be dead. 9 days in the cave, and people have really put all their resources to make sure those 9 and the coach survive. And I mean, those 12 children.
I was
amazing.
monitoring the whole process when it started 10 days ago. When they went in, and you could see all the international media networks, our competitors trying to outdo one another in the coverage and efforts at those who are going in and coming out. So this last night, when the message came that they had actually getting to where the boys were, and that I hear they were able to count them from under the water. They asked them to mention their names, and then they got to 13, and then they realized that all of them are alive. It was so exciting. This morning, the pickers are very, very excited. I mean, wonderful work done there. I have been in a cave somewhere in the Ashanti region before, and putting what I went in there to what is being talked about, I think that it was really helpful for them, because you can't see anything in the cave there. Now, you can only stand at a certain point. Some other point, you have to crawl. And so for these boys to have managed to get to the point where there was no water and stood there for 10 days, it's interesting. I think God really is.
And the fact that, I mean, they're going beyond their own resources to even seek help from other neighboring countries, and UK, everyone is putting in resources. I'm looking at Ghana, looking beyond when we really need the help, and not when we don't. I mean, for trivial things, we'd rather seek help, but for important things such as flooding, where we could get, diverse ideas as to how to do it, we wouldn't ask for help. Mr. Hughes, who is going on a lifelong journey, as Bright
the journey will end very soon.
The Ghana Entertainment USA Awards for TV Male
Personality of the Year.
That's exciting. I'm sure a lot of classes were here. By Saturday, I'm sure we'll put all in one basket.
We will.
And tell you exactly.
And then the lifelong journey will begin.
It will. Anyway, guys, that's what we have for you this morning here on New Day. Of course, your favorite super morning show. You know how we do it here. It's Tuesday, so it's not easy because you're going back to work after a holiday. But we plan to shake you up and get you ready for work this morning.
How do we do it?
You just experience it. Just stay with us from now till 9.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, a long weekend and then going back to work. It will, but hey, you got to go to work. But we'll tell you more about that later on. There's a lot more on this show this morning. Stay with us. Anthony Jackson has the news. The rest of the package is on after that.
Well, the news comes up shortly, right after this. Let's look at the headlines for this morning. Now, checking your Sajifo Amutio Penny recounts sequence of events before the death of former Vice President Pakwesi Bekwin Emisa Atta. The Convention's People's Party Chairman Professor Edmond Dele challenges government to create wealth rather than more regions. Retired state prosecutor in Who Watches the Watchman video responds to allegations. Chips compound at Obonsta in the Central Region constantly deserted. Don't forget, we are live on DSTV channel 279. Now, the Ochenhin Osaje for Amutio for Repenning has given a vivid account of the sequence of events before the death of the former Vice President Pakwesi Emisa Atta. at the 37 Military Hospital in Accra last Friday. The Reverend Chief said the former Vice President was transported to the hospital via a pickup truck after an ambulance failed to arrive quickly.
Every time I go there, I met my friend, Miss Arthur. And we talk, we shake hands. He was doing his, and I was doing mine. He gets on for 25 minutes, and I'm on for maybe 25 or 30. He finishes first, and he proceeds to the cross-trainer machine, as he does. For 14 years, I've known him in the gym. I have finished my Stairmaster. I'm on the stationary part, sweating profusely, and I heard bang.
Having heard a bang and some women screaming, he quickly left his machine and rushed to where he heard the sound and found some trainers gathered around the late Vice President, who was trying to catch his breath as the people around him tried to resuscitate him. The Ochehene recounted calling for an ambulance, and since there was none at the gym, the former Vice President had to be transported in a pickup to the hospital.
And something dawned on me. When we took him out, there was no ambulance, there was no car. We threw the former Vice President in the pickup, threw him in the back, and they drove off to 37. At this moment, I went back to the gym, and everybody had departed. The place was empty. I just went and got my tablet and my phone, called my driver to take me home.
Now let's head over to the central region, where the Chips compound at Abonsere is constantly deserted and obviously not serving its purpose. Residents of the town and other nearby communities say they rather have to visit the homes of health workers to access health services. Here's a report by Adjoa Adobia Owusu.
Compound concept was introduced by the Ghana Health Service in 2000 to promote primary health care, reduce maternal mortality, and improve overall health coverage. At Abonsere, where Chips compound serves more than 3 communities, residents say health workers are always absent. Mary Adriam says she has to trek on several occasions only to meet a deserted facility most of the time. I decided to follow up. This is the Abonsere Chips compound that serves about 3 communities. That is Onyadze, Ango, and the Abonsere community itself. As at 10:15 that I got here, there was no health worker around, just as the people of Onyadze had complained about. After meeting a closed Chips compound, I was directed to a female laborer at the health center who had been granted permission to stay away from work but had been tasked to attend to anyone who visits the facility. She told the news team the health workers had traveled to the district office to submit forms for validation. I met 2 of the workers at the Ejumako District Health Directorate and sought to find out reasons for their usual absence.
If I'm on duty for the weekend, even after 3 after work, somebody should come and call me. I know I'm on weekend duty, so I'm the one supposed to go to the facility. Because we are not staying at the facility, when it's 3 o'clock, we go to our various homes.
The District Health Director, Doris Ahilegbe, confirmed the issue had come to her attention and explained measures she has put in place to ensure the anomaly is addressed.
It is true that we said they should submit some forms because of the validation of the payroll staffs nationwide. But I don't expect them, all of them, to leave the facility early in the morning like this. Sometimes I just get up and do monitoring unaware, but we have schedule of monitoring that we do monthly. We visit all our facilities and we check some of their data, whether they are performing well or not.
The district director said she would have to report the midwife who keeps on reporting to work only twice in a week to the regional director after several warnings.
To some politics now, the chairman of the Convention People's Party, CPP, Professor Edmond Dele, has dismissed assertions that Ghana is among the 3 fastest growing economies in the world at a media briefing to mark the country's 58th anniversary in attaining Republican status. He argued the reality depicts a different picture.
I want to see you, Kwame Nkrumah show boy. I want to see you, Kwame Nkrumah show boy.
We are proud that we are the top 2 or 3 fastest growing economies in the world. But this so-called growth is marred by the reality of the persistent poverty and growing income inequality. We have economic growth, but not economic freedom. We cannot have economic freedom when we live in a country that does not offer opportunities to everyone to succeed, regardless of your age, your tribe or ethnicity, your political affiliation or your gender.
National Chairman of the CPP, Professor Edmond Dele, called for a shift in policy by government and reorientation of the entire nation for accelerated development.
The CPP today, as it did in the beginning, stands for the leveraging of the greatest advancement in science and technology to propel the country to the forefront of human progress. We cannot afford to wait any longer.
Director of Elections for the CPP, James Kwabena-Bonfe, argued recommendations by the 5-member committee set up by Chief Justice and the subsequent removal from office of the 3 electoral commissioners brought to the fore certain fundamental flaws in the 1992 Constitution.
At least in the record of our country, 4th Republican presidents, with the exception of Mr. Rawlings, all the presidents we have had have on one occasion or the other had cause to lament over the inconsistencies, contradictions, and indiscretion of the Constitution 1992. Yes. For the mere fact that we still have the indemnity clauses even in there, yes, it's enough cause to worry. We are worried that President Akufo-Addo, notwithstanding the promise to overhaul the Constitution as we speak, has not made any public, as far as we are concerned, any public pronouncement or any public step towards the attempt at overhauling this Constitution.
He debunked the notion that the Convention People's Party is wasting its time and resources trying to win political power.
That under this 4th Republic, we have never won elections, so what is our relevance? Political parties don't merely exist to win just elections. Political parties exist also to shape policy. Political parties also exist to change the thinking of the people. Political parties also exist to question the wrongs in society. Political parties also exist to seek the welfare of the masses, the ordinary people, and speak their language.
Ghana was the first sub-Saharan African country to achieve independence on March 6, 1957. 3 years later, Prime Minister Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was sworn into office as the country's first president and a republic proclaimed on July 1, 1960.
Africa, yes.
Still in the camp of the CPP, Professor Edmond Dele has challenged government to create wealth to benefit the citizenry rather than creating more regions that could end up dividing the people. He spoke to our reporter Ebenezer Ajikum-Boateng.
As the country marks its 58th anniversary of Republican status, the leading Nkrumah's party, CPP, says Nkrumah's clarion call for development is relevant today. The chairman of the party, Professor Edmond Dele, called on all patriots and revolutionaries to join forces with the CPP to win power and steer the affairs of the country to accelerate the pace of development.
We are not parochial, so anything that will help us, bring us together, we listen to ideas. And in fact, that is why as a socialist, you don't drive anybody away. That is why as socialists, we are not in favor of a unipolar world. We are not in favor of a bipolar world. We are interested in a multipolar world. And that is why we support multi-party state and not a dual-party state.
On the creation of more regions, the chairman of the CPP is of the view that wealth creation for the citizenry should be the focus of government.
We cannot manage the few regions that we have. No, some of these things we should be fair to ourselves. I've seen it that you try to embrace everybody and trying to break up causes ethnic confrontation. Together, I believe that bringing us closer to each other is better than trying everybody to take a little of this one. The economic power, I believe in it, that create and share.
Professor Dele indicated the CPP is as relevant today as it was in the 1960s.
He talked about nuclear power at a time when nobody even thought about it. We were even leading most developed countries. Now, people are coming to beg for nuclear power. Even the energy people are coming to study it. But look at the years, 58 wasted years. We left all what was good for our country, and we went into this, what they call neo-colonialism, and we are still hanging to it. No nation can save us except ourselves. So he said, I prefer independence with danger than servitude in tranquility.
The Convention People's Party CPP, formed on June 12, 1949 by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was the governing party of the autonomous British colony of the Gold Coast from 1951 to 1957 and independent Ghana from 1957 to 1966.
Now, the retired state prosecutor Ellen Kaukumi, who is in the Asin Central MP's Kennedy Ejapons, who watches the Watchman video, has denied receiving a bribe of $5,000 to botch the case, the Republic versus Mohammed Hafiz Abdullah, Mubarak Seidu, and Prince Kingston Kwame. The 67-year-old retired state prosecutor, in a statement, indicated that it was erroneous that Mr. Japon claimed in various media interviews that she was deceased. She explained she retired in 2011 and handed the case over to another prosecutor 2 years before the case was dismissed, and it was therefore not true that she was not going to court, reason for which the case was dismissed. She is demanding a retraction and an apology from the legislator. Now, the Bank of Ghana has started the implementation of its new Capital Requirement Directive. The Capital Requirement Directive sets the requirement by which banks will calculate their level of capital as spelled out under the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act. Now, the Bank of Ghana says the implementation of the new Capital Requirement Directive starts July 1, 2018. However, banks will be expected to start full compliance by January 1, 2019. The directive comes 6 months to the deadline for meeting the new 400 million cedis minimum capital for banks. The Capital Requirement Directive holds the board of directors of the banks accountable for their bank's ability to meet the minimum requirements set. The boards of banks are expected to work to establish a capital management framework and to provide oversight of capital for the bank consistent with the board-approved strategy and risk appetite generally. In all these, the Bank of Ghana remains resolute with its December 2018 deadline. Now, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Amewu, says Ghana's sustainable development will demand a reverse of environmental degradation through illegal mining, illegal logging, wildfires, and intense sun winning. He observed the importance of massive tree planting to help promote and develop the ecosystem. Here's a report by Benjamin Adu.
The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, in collaboration with the Forestry Commission and other stakeholders, observed an International Day of Forests on the theme, Maintaining a Balance Between Urbanization and Forest Conservation. The day is set aside by the United Nations to raise awareness on the importance of forests and tree outside forest. The day coincided with the launch of the 7th Forest Week and Greening Ghana Day at Sakora Wono in Kwabre East of the Ashanti region. Minister of Lands and Natural Resources John Peter Amewu called on Ghanaians to help sustain the fight against the menace of illegal mining, particularly in the Bono-Ahafo, Ashanti, Western, Eastern and Northern regions. He announced plans by government to restore degraded forest reserves in the country.
We are embarking on massive tree planting and forest plantation development drive through the Youth Employment Program, promoting the conservation of biodiversity, protecting of water bodies, promoting ecosystem development, and ensuring strict enforcement of our laws.
The activities of illegal miners have led to the degradation of 952.7 hectares of forest. The Forestry Commission is recruiting 80,000 youth under its afforestation program to help reclaim degraded lands, forests and protect water bodies. Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, Kojo Owusu-Efriye, said forest guards will be armed to effectively carry out their duties. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah said the rate of depletion of forest resources should not be allowed to continue. Mayor of Kumasi, Osei Sibe-Entry, called for support in the KMA's drive to green the metropolis.
And that's it for the news for this morning. New Day continues shortly after the break.
It's time for newspaper headlines. We'll start off with BNFT. It says Ghana 1 billion cedi housing fund is to provide cedi mortgages. Then also there's a special report on real estate in there. Then Adom Savings and Loan empowers market women in Kaswa. Then also there's a new national airline. The Turkish Airlines has joined the race. Then also there's a feature of the creation of 6 new regions, and the question is signs of a failing state. We'll get to know when we read BNFT. Then also Seth Tepe says don't exit IMF completely. Then finally, government plans 300 million Ghana cedi monthly debt issuances for the pension funds. Well, if you get BNFT this morning, these are the stories you would see. Also, Ghanaian Times says combating incidences of corruption in public office. Shraj is pushing for a new law to help with the combat against corruption. Then also, President says creation of the Special Prosecutor's Office paves way for states to go after corrupt officials. Then the NTCE directed to review the stands on the grades D7 and E8. Then also government reviews report on police sexual misconduct in South Sudan. We'll be talking about these issues from the Ghanaian Times when we sit down. Then also the Finder says pressure mounts on the president. He's inundated with proposals on how to appoint the EC chair and the deputies. Also, WASI grades D7 and E8 are under review. That's coming from Professor Yanka. Then also, prosecutor demands retraction and apology from Kennedy Agyapong. Then efforts to save Emisa Arthur's life have been revealed. So the incidents that led to the death of the former vice president are taken into account in the Finder. Then also finally, the bird flu outbreak has hit Ashanti and Eastern regions. And so we'll talk about bird flu and see how best we can help ourselves not to get into contact with it. Daily Graphic also says corruption must be fought with new measures. President Akufo-Addo tells other African leaders. Then also Professor Yanka again, he says review policy on varsity admission requirements. The Education Ministry has directed NCTE. Then the bird flu hits Ghana and over 11,000 birds have been killed. What does that mean to those of us who enjoy poultry? We'll certainly talk about that also in today's newspaper headlines and review. Then finally, I think Daily Guide says Anas clears Edupoku, and then pro-pastors prophet begs Anas. Of course, everyone wants the pastors to be dealt with, but Mahama Boy Wild, he says over the $12 million EC bribe. And he says he did not take any money as has been alleged. Then government fed senior citizens. Then finally, Charlotte Osei's bad contracts have been exposed. So these are some of the newspaper headlines coming in this morning, right?
Well, the story on the Guide is attracted my attention this morning. I mean, pro-pastors and what? Are they using public funds? Which pastor is using public funds? I mean, it's a contract between a churchgoer and a man they see as the representative of God. So if they decide to give their attention to him or her, and so you are told that bring 5,000 cedis for healing and you bring it and you don't get it, it is between you and your God. Why should Anas go and waste his time on that?
Well, I guess it's just that in
Ghana, I think that is between the pastors and God. So
it is. It really is.
I really don't see.
But right, then likewise, because we're a religious country, then you'd also say when it comes to things even of public office, then it really is between them and God. Because overall, we know that the arching person is God. Whatever is hidden, the things that even Anas reveals are not entire. There are things we only get to know.
Which pastor takes our taxes?
No one. No pastor.
The public officers, we pay them with our taxes, we pay their house rent, their electricity bills, their water bills, we give them vehicles. So we have every right to find out how they use our money and what they do with it. No one in this country pays any pastor.
I agree.
If a pastor is using the name of God, okay, to extort money, well, if it's extortion and he is caught, let the Lord take its course. But please,
but then you're looking at it in a skewed. God will definitely deal with them, but then you're skewing it to only, you know, talking about the monies they take from them, but also them evading taxes and under declaring their businesses, because most of them run it as a business, but then they'll come out and say it's, you know, a religious body, and all those things then are what I am looking forward to them probing or us actually investigating to find out for us. But if it is just, I mean, the extortion bits, where really you can't even say, because if a human being who attends a particular church says, I am willing to part with 5,000 Ghana cedis for my pastor to give me healing or deliverance or whatever it is, really, then where do you come in? How are you going to even define what the person is doing as extortion?
Amma, you see, the point is that you don't need Anas to know if church A or B is not paying taxes. We know what they get in as what we call collection is not taxable.
Right.
But if the church is running a business, say the church has a printing house, they have a transport business, they are supposed to pay taxes. If they are not doing that, the revenue authority of this country has every right to go in there and demand the taxes. If they fail to pay, drag them before court. You don't need to go and fix any cameras anywhere. The issue is that the man is talking about defrauding. Look, if you believe that God can do A, B, C, D, and if you believe that God can put visa in your passport and you go and give money to a pastor to pray
do that,
for visa to appear in your passport and it doesn't come, Anas should come and waste his time.
No, I don't think Anas will waste his time.
Let's touch on
let's touch on other stories there. The finder says, Wasi Grace, D7 and E8 are under review. And but I'm happy because I think Professor Yanka mentioned some salient points in this. From what I understand, or how the discussion went, is the point that some people may not necessarily need the course for which they are getting these bad grades. And so are you going to lump everyone together and saying, just because you have D7 and E8 in your results, I'm not going to take you? If the person really did well in the courses, the main courses that they need to qualify to go into university to do what they want to do, I think we should look at it, because really not everyone is cut out for getting every good grade in every subject based on their circumstances. You've got people, just because they got D7 and E8, not making it into university, and they're on the street hawking. Are you trying to tell me that upon all the resources we have put into these children, invested in them, they can't make anything when they go to university? They certainly can. Let's create some other channels, because like we said, outside, for example, in Germany, they've got education system where it's not all about grades. We're taking other things into consideration to look at the person in totality, the holistic approach of education. If at the end of it the person qualifies and is good enough to be in school, at least can hear, can listen, can understand to some extent, why not give the person a chance?
It's true. I think it's long overdue, and I am hoping that really the review should not take any longer. I mean, this has to be a decision by the executive.
Right.
Now, the Education Ministry and whoever is involved were told the Council for Tertiary Education they quickly should sit down on this and come up with what the way forward is. I know that in our time, those of us who are 63 years and above, when we wrote the ordinary level, if you score 1, which was the highest, and had 7 in mathematics or 9 in mathematics or English, you could go to 6th form. Okay, you could proceed to go to the sixth form. In fact, you could even go to the university and write the mathematics or English.
Again.
Yes, and it worked. Now, there are brilliant students who are making it well. And you see, there's a particular problem with English, particularly in our rural communities. Okay, for the fortunate ones in urban centers, English is very good. Teachers are there, they get all what they need. Now go back to our rural areas. The kids speak the local language at home.
Right.
Okay, they build up to senior high school, and the English is not what they use every day. So passing English is a difficult thing. So you find a brilliant student with all the high grades in all the subjects, but English is low. Mathematics is a problem. Now, like Professor Yanka said, why stop them from proceeding to the university? Let us admit them and perhaps group them to be able to rewrite these subjects. Exactly. I don't think it takes any legislation to do this. A review and then we can move on. I think it's long overdue, and so we quickly will have to deal with it.
It is.
I was also looking at this other story on, I think, BNFT, don't exit IMF completely. I am very supportive of that. Our governments have shown that when there is no headmaster at the Bank of Ghana with a cane in hand, asking them not to overspend, they will overspend. Right from Mr. Rawlings, every government before it leaves office had overspent. Mr. Rawlings had overspent, Mr. Kufuor had overspent, Mr. Mahama had overspent. I'll not be surprised if President Akufo-Addo overspends before he leaves office. So if the story is that don't leave IMF completely, I am happy. And I'm hoping that, in fact, government will listen. Because, like I said, if the IMF is not at the Bank of Ghana with a cane in hand, the government will overspend. We know what they do during elections. We know. I mean, roads get asphalted in the middle of the night. And that is what causes the overspending. Because it's not in budget. But because you want to win votes, it is done.
Anyway, at this point, let's take a musical break for this morning. We'll be back with more here on New Day. Nice one there. And that is beautiful music coming in. I'll be telling you where you can get more of this from. But we're going to be talking about neoclassical African music and body percussion. And I'm doing this with Max Polak. He's an artistic director of Rambata. And also Kweku Kwachi. He's the director for Pan-African Youth Orchestra. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
So, Kweku, let me start off with you. What the young people just did out there is what your outfit does. But you're also putting together, you know, a program, a debut, to talk about neoclassical African music and body percussion. What is it all about? Where did it start from?
This whole idea was a brainchild of my late father, Nana Danso Abiam, who is one of the world's most renowned composers. He founded the Pan-African Orchestra in the 80s, and the Pan-African Youth Orchestra is the youth wing of the Pan-African Orchestra. The whole idea is to explore the classical foundations of African music. We describe our music as neoclassical African music because it's a new system of making African music, which utilizes instruments from diverse indigenous musical cultures from the continent of Africa. I mean, we traditionally is never done, and this is the first time we're bringing together instruments from all over the continent under one umbrella with the main goal of uniting Africa through music.
Okay, but what are some of the instruments you talk about?
We currently working with instruments such as the atentaben, bamboo flute, the gilet xylophone, the kora harp lute, assorted drums from different corners of the continent, and so on.
Nice. But Max, you talk about body percussion. What phenomenon is that?
Body percussion is just a way of making music percussively without any drums, using only your body. So it looks like this.
Okay. So nice. But that looks difficult and looks painful.
It's neither difficult nor painful.
Okay.
If you know what you're doing.
Nice. So how did that evolve as part of music? When did it start and how did you come about it?
Well, body percussion is really the oldest instrument known to man, because the first thing humans did, most likely, besides was this and this.
Stomping the feet.
Yeah. So in my opinion, this is the oldest instrument we have, and everything else evolved from that. And it feels very primal to do this, and it's very, very, very enjoyable. And I enjoy sharing it, especially with young people. And there are so many different sounds that you can create with just your hand. Yeah. That are.
Max, I want to know how long you took to get this kind of experience. I mean, how much experience have you used to master this? Because everyone can clap, everyone can snap, but it doesn't make music.
Yeah. Well, it took me about 25 years to put all this stuff together that I'm doing now. My technique is called rumba tap. It's based on Afro-Cuban folkloric traditional music, which of course is partly Ghanaian in origin. And I started as a tap dancer, and then I started playing drums, and I was very interested in jazz as a teenager, so I'm a professional tap dancer and drum set player and jazz musician, and I also have a background in theater as an actor, singer, and dancer. And eventually I got into studying world music, at first Cuban music, then Brazilian music, African music, also Balkan and Greek music, Middle Eastern. I'm very interested in folklore from all over the world. And eventually, throughout the last 25 years, I put all these elements together into the technique that I call rumba tap.
Okay, so Kweku, on that day, I mean, you're having a program, and what exactly are you going to showcase on that day?
We are working together with Max. Max and the children are working together. The kids will be demonstrating some body percussion music, and we will also be demonstrating most of our works as well. But this is very interesting. I mean, this is the first time such thing has happened, fusing body percussion with neoclassical African music.
I'm interested in finding out from you how difficult it is to teach adults how to, you know, make music, and also children.
This is interesting. I've worked with both adults and the children as well. It is more easy with the children, especially if they give you the attention. The kids we are working with currently were not instrumentalists when we auditioned them. They just showed the interest, and we had to train them from the scratch. But the good part is they apply mathematics to what they do, and that makes it easy for us, the teachers, to achieve what we want from them. Anyway,
so let's talk about the orchestra. Where is it taking place, what time, and how do we get there?
Tomorrow, we will be at the National Theatre showcasing our collaboration works with Max and his partner at the National Theatre Folks Place at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Aside of that, we reside at Teshinongwa Estate, where we rehearse from Monday through Saturday from 2 p.m. actually from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay. So if someone wants to reach you, I'm sure online you have your websites that they can contact and come in case there are some children who are interested in coming to learn the instruments. And I guess the word out there is also you don't have to necessarily be playing an instrument currently, but if you have the interest, you can come.
Exactly.
Very well. And we'll all be coming to Max also to learn how to percuss, to make music. So we all want to join them tomorrow. They'll be having that exhibition at National Theatre in the evening. You want to make it there. We'll be talking about neoclassical African music and body percussion. And my sweet people are ready with some music from the flute. Thank you very much, and I'd like to say a big thank you to Max Polak. He's the artistic director for Rambitap, and also Kweku Kwachi, the director for Pan-African Youth Orchestra. But we have Daily Rant with you this morning, and Eric is standing by from the Western region. We are talking about inadequate ambulance in the health sector. You heard the unfortunate demise of the former vice president at 37. We heard there was, not an available ambulance on site to transport him to the hospital. And so this we have to talk about, and we're going to Takoradi right this moment to find out what they have to say about that. But I guess it's a real challenge. Many times we talk about the health sector being inadequately, supported, especially ambulances. We've got so many across the country, but they're non-functional, or, they don't have the equipment in it to support life. So let's cross over to Takoradi now and hear what Eric and the folks there had to say this morning.
And as if we're not aware that there were inadequate ambulances in the system. Discussions have begun as to who ought to have done what. Let's give ourselves 3 days, and this discussion will die down only for it to resurrect when there is a problem at hand. This morning, once again, we've been cruelly reminded of how bad our healthcare system is in the country. This time around, it is the unavailability of ambulances in the country. And as if we're not aware that there were inadequate ambulances in the system. Discussions have begun as to who ought to have done what. Let's give ourselves some 3 days, and the discussion will die down for it to resurrect when there is a problem at hand. This morning on Daily Rant with me, Eric Yawoje, where we are coming to you live from Takoradi, we want to find out exactly what is the problem with our healthcare system in the country. Is it a question of misplaced priority, or it is simply lack of inadequate funds to take care of the challenges therein? I have some gentlemen with me who will help me try to see if we can find answers to the teething problems. Brace Akwaba.
Yeah, I'm that's it.
Say, it's the ambulance in you. Does it surprise you?
It does. But then again, because of the number of times them condition what person say I can have some incident, it doesn't any longer. It does because I feel that this is an essential part of the healthcare system we need. Now, obia we have to make sure that you attend to it urgently. That's what surprises me. But for the usual, it being one a day, it's been normal. No.
I'll say, Abraham.
Very surprising, considering say in this level of modernity, it's simply also with healthcare. Now, how we air coastal. But I think say the problem goes beyond the vehicles. The capacity, human capacity no war, and even where they are being stationed, and yes, a regional level, and even how you create a line, a network, and for call or night mean that speedy response from these paramedics.
Okay.
I am here. If there, so share
ɔman kɛseɛ te sɛ Ghana a yɛwɔ yi na wohwɛ baabi kora mpo te sɛ Western region yɛwɔ mpo mfa nyɛ example hospital kɛseɛ te sɛ Afiankwanta hospital oni ambulance baako mpo sometimes obi yare a taxi mu na obi wɔ hɔ nom ayɛ de ne tɔ ne yɛ de ne kɔ Afiankwanta hospital ebi wɔ hɔ mpo ɛkwan mpo yɛ de ne fa so akɔ mpo na ɛnyɛ but sanka ambulance wɔ hɔ nom a obetumi ama no obetumi afa ne way through no de akɔ nti ayɛ nhyehyɛ wɔ ɔman yi mu sɛ ɔman a yɛwɔ mu a ambulance enim so the whole Western region krambo yes ambulance too pe no krambo nya adwuma ene ye wo Ghana ha no dey am hyehyɛ pa amenia
I am for big cities like Accra, Takrade, Kumasi, Sunyane, Koforidua. I am crampo say your friend ambulance homba. So what about Obia or Afamasa Kotum a treble over ambulance. The situation is that dark.
Yes, Eric, you remember there last year we had a certain incident or Oye Hotopo, which is in the Hunter West District. Small boy been away. We needed an ambulance to bring him to the hospital. Ye nyabi, yako Oye ambulance service yako friend no was a crapon. Afi no dofa takwanoko for yarefo and Sanwabo Hotopo. Imagine the number of hours obedi. So we had to take Obini private pickup. So really, say what takra near ambulance. No did them time here. Then imagine to make Obi or war ABM van there, Bosum Copre and I be them in the. I mean, it is dangerous, way too dangerous. But as I am young there, none of our leaders is able to see that it is urgent, and so we have to approach this with all the agency it needs. We are relaxed though. Yakra ambulances, no beban, sobeba ochina, and obeban and nest. We don't know.
And we find it convenient to buy V8.
Now you're excuse. Oh, say V8 no dear. What sort of country do we live in? The V8 you want your comfort, but not the comfort of the entirety. Look, now I can report to you about UK forwards and even for Red 1 course, which is emergency course, heart attacks.
The highest of levels.
8-minute response rate, 72%. 72%. Yes, and what are we doing? Yes, in 2 hours, we scratch it.
Abraham, is it a case of misplaced priority and other Sikano Onyu?
I think say priority, the word they say issue. Now, when my men draw onto Nyakujo say Kano, Ebua will for private vehicles, Shebu and Pabia a rapture, or then cramp into a taxi, or be do another damage is so severe. Now, say, if we continue this way, behind, I think, say, as much as I exploited these challenges, why wouldn't there be an opportunity to be created? Then private individuals take up, because if indeed you are complaining, say finances, now go to V8, now you go to an ambulance, one even for a region or for a district, and now we have been hearing say such a facility for under one district, one factory, but what is the action being taken?
Yesterday, Ben is spending in excess of $900 million to 900 million cities to create 6 new regions. Look at the situation. So, Obi Bakada obviously, it's a misplaced priority.
And until I mean, could you brace the argument? So, Osha, and yes, Abia or mine to say Ghana, you to me and talk ambulance. Say, you hear Abia 300 ambulances and buy you to me to Ghana Hanum. So, be because Abia and talk. Share what they share the kind of lifestyle ye de to me show being so living. Share the kind of lifestyle your cause will be a DC, MC, MPA, her lifestyle, economy. Share the kind of cars our team, the kind of if fear or multi-team sa and name and until sa and Yamana, Madame Mamohono. I didn't tell them to me because okay, and as I had a young genius uncle for now or more Ghana no. Not young pet sa ambulances in young family, not could you breathe no more cassette. So we share baby ambulances and answer baby young cramp young grass and war when I were chilly. I am by war where true. In the wife ambulance crumble or takradians and I saw keep 3 points. Share the number of hours I will be the never car a coin by a namso. It is very bad.
Okay. Well, these are the views of my gentlemen, but for want of time, I want us to end the discussion here and continue some other time. You can also go onto our various social media platforms and post your comments there. This has been your daily rant with me, Eric Yawaji from Takrade.
welcome back. And the newspapers are ready. You've seen the front pages. Daily Graphic talks about the bird flu hitting Ghana. Over 11,000 birds were told have been destroyed. The issue of corruption is captured by the Ghanaian Times and Daily Graphic. While Shraj is pushing for a new law, the president says that corruption must be fought with new measures. Those are some of the stories. And then the Finder talks about the EC's appointment. Pressure is mounting on the president for the appointment of some commissioners and the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. We'll take a look at all those issues. My guest this morning, Member of Parliament for the Ifutu constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Alexander Afenyomarkin is here. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
And hope you're doing great.
By grace, I'm fine.
After a long weekend. Welcome. Now, Member of Parliament for the Adaklu constituency, a member of the NDC, is also here. Honorable Kwame Agboja. Good morning, too.
Good morning, Bright.
Hope you're doing great.
By His grace.
Thanks for joining us. This morning, let's start the conversation with the Daily Graphic on page 20. The Ochehin's recounting what he saw the Vice President go through and is asked for the country's emergency response system to be reviewed. The Osajifo Ochehin Osajifo Amwetio for opinion the second has shed more light on the death of the former Vice President. In a video in which the Ochehin was addressing an audience, he recounted how the statesman was conveyed in a pickup vehicle to the 37 military hospital because there was no available ambulance. There were about 7-8 of us, and something dawned on me. And when we took him out, there was no ambulance, there was no car. We threw the former Vice President in the back seat of a pickup and off to the 37 military hospital. That's what he said. Now, the Ochehin called on government to improve on the country's emergency response system. According to him, the poor emergency system of the country put the lives of people caught up in critical situations in jeopardy. We also need to make emergency response system and other basic first aid treatment part of our school system to equip people with the requisite skills to help those caught up in emergency situations. That's the Ochehin talking there. Kwame Abuja, let's start the conversation here. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we saw the death of another man, a 70-year-old man, because he had to move from facility to facility in a private car, I guess, not in an ambulance. The Ochehin says that they called for an ambulance from the National Ambulance Service. There was none. The Vice President had to be conveyed in the back seat of a pickup vehicle to 37. He said we need to review our emergency system. That's long overdue.
Right. Good morning to you, and good morning to my very good friend, Honorable Afenyomarkin, and especially good morning to the cherished viewers, those who always watch your program from Adaklu constituency. Bright, it's with a very heavy heart I want to pay my condolences to the family of our late Vice President, the wife, kids, the entire Ghanaian society for his sudden and demise. Bright, I've heard a lot about what transpired and how things were put out over from Friday till yesterday. The call by the Ochehin is a typical call we all make when we all wait or fail to do what is the needful until this period. It doesn't matter whether it is when we refuse to do the necessary investment in the drains so that flooding kills people, whether we fail to build school buildings so it collapses and hurts kids. It's a typical Ghanaian thing that we only remember that we ought to have done the right things when problem come. Right, I'm curious about this, and I think we should pay attention to it. First of all, I find it quite curious the caliber of people who, and I know people who go to that gym. I have a colleague, a member of parliament, who also regularly go and train there. To the extent that we are told that there was no provision for maybe anything to resuscitate or rescue anybody at the location. And we're talking about one of the biggest military installations in this country. It's curious, and I know that there is an infirmary or something there. And what was the protocol? And also to hear, in fact, to be honest, I heard on social media, and I think this is going to be the basis of why I'll call for a public inquiry. We are told that an hour or so before the news became public, a defense minister was on social media sharing some information. I said a defense minister sharing some information as to what happened at the gym. Not too long ago, the president himself was on social media talking about condolences. That is, in fact, that is where people got the information from his, I think, Facebook feed. That is where a lot of people got this thing from. They talk about the vice president, the former vice president, being thrown into the back of a pickup because of lack of ambulance. I can understand.
Kwame, let me clarify this. The newspaper, the Daily Graphic, is quoting the Ochehini as saying that he was conveyed in the back of a pickup vehicle. So the clarification is that it was not in the bucket, but the back seat.
Yes.
That is a clarification, because we are getting signals that some are suggesting he was conveyed in the bucket of the pickup. But the clarification we want to put in here is that a military officer whose vehicle was used said it was the back seat and not the bucket. Just a clarification.
Well, I didn't get the impression that it was in the bucket anyway. I just
we are getting signals that some are saying.
We convey people in emergency in an ambulance.
Okay, Kwame, sorry, I'm having some challenges, technical one. Let's quickly take a break. We'll come back. Welcome back, and sorry for that rude interruption there. Kwame, you were making a point. We'll still stay on this issue about what transpired at the Air Force gym here in Accra.
Yes, right. What I was trying to say is the demise of our former vice president has brought forth things that normally happen when this sort of sad situations come up. And I was giving you details of what I know happened. And indeed, I said I'm not aware that he was put in a bucket of a pickup vehicle. But the reason we use ambulances to convey emergency situations is not necessarily just a means of transportation. It's because there are some critical gadgets or equipment on that vehicle that can even start giving timely interventions before you get to an established health facility. So even if he was conveyed in a limousine, it wouldn't have been any different.
Right.
The issue is that we needed an ambulance. We needed a paramedic immediately, not any kind of vehicle. And we are also told that all of a sudden, almost everybody vanished from the gym. Look, I've heard a lot that agitates my mind. I think the only way we can get to the bottom of this as to whose job is it to do what and what actually happened is to ask for a public inquiry. And to cap it up, it is quite curious. The president was quick to issue condolences, but till today, I am not aware that he's actually directed any state of mourning. This is not the first time we've lost a statesman like this. Is it because the Vice President, Mr. Atta's life doesn't matter that much? Is it because he's forgotten? I think by now the president should lead the nation in mourning. Have we lost a vice president, a former vice president before? Yes. What did we do? Could we not apply the same minimum standard? I'm so much disappointed. It's as if this government, was quick to let me leave it quite listen, to say they are sorry,
but have refused to, or so far not activated the necessary things that needed to be done to actually draw the attention of the country. The last thing to talk about the health care system. Right. Healthcare is expensive. I always say this. The reason maybe Britain and other people will spend maybe £90 billion a year on healthcare. The reason everybody believes that we should commit money to infrastructure, logistics, and staff of the healthcare is because I will need it. You will need it. Everybody needs it. If you imagine the former vice president in this situation, imagine you and I and the people in Adaklu. What chance do they have to be rescued or to be given emergency services in this? So I think the Ochihini's call is normal. We all say it all the time, but it is upon the government. Today, I am sure, if you were to ask this government, almost 18 months in government, what have you done with the healthcare? They will tell you they've paid nurses training allowance. Basic, that's all they've done. NHIS is collapsing, they will tell you because there's no money. But we are paying taxes. I'm still paying my NHIS fees, and people are not aware. NHIS is supposed to actually fund National Ambulance Service according to their formula. Does that money ever go from NHIS to the National Ambulance Service? Nothing. They haven't bought even a bicycle as an ambulance yet. But guess what? If you give my brother the opportunity, he will tell you how this government is the best ever in the history of our country. I think the people of this country deserve better from this government.
Will anybody be out of order to ask that if the NDC did not leave a health system that is good enough?
I would say the NDC didn't leave a healthcare system that has got all the things. But there's a track record of what NDC met in terms of the number of beds, hospital beds, the number of health facilities across the country, the number of referral facilities, the number of health care staff, the number of ambulances. And the record will show that from 2009 till today, there has never, and I'm saying this here, and I want your crew to go around the country. There has never been a time in our history where the largest amount of investment in healthcare culminating in physical infrastructure upgrade that everybody can see, that the numbers of trained staff, even the numbers of ambulances that were procured under the NDC is unprecedented. Yes, some of them are broken down. I've seen the report in Parliament as to why some of them had accidents and needed a repair. Some of them needed upgrading of some of the equipment in it. So, to put it quite simply, the healthcare system is not yet what it ought to be, but the lack of progress in investment over the last 18 months has made the situation worse than what it should be. Maybe the current government can tell us what they have done in the past 18 months to build up upon what NDC left.
Honorable Afinyomakin, let me read this to you. These are some statements in the Finder this morning. Ghana needs more than 1,000 ambulances. That's the number of ambulances we need, according to the Finder. By international standards, our ambulances are supposed to work for 5 years, and they should be put somewhere. And so, by 2015, all ambulances were supposed to have been parked. Now, a contract for 200 ambulances awarded. The Minister of Health is reported to have done that. Government rejects 30 substandard ambulances. So 200 of them procured by the Minister of Health did not meet specifications. According to report, the undocumented purchase of 30 out of 200 ambulances procured by the Health Ministry and arrived in the country in 2016 did not meet specifications. So they are certain there. And $2.4 million paid for substandard ambulances. Again, Yoko is being asked by the Health Minister to conduct investigations into how 30 ambulances were not fit for the purpose and have been purchased at the cost of $2.4 million. So that's some figures put in there by the Finder as far as ambulances are concerned. And this is what the Ochehin is suggesting, that we need to do a review of our health emergency system.
Right, thank you very much.
But you can also react to Kwame's issue. He thinks that government should have declared a state of mourning by now.
I listened to him, so I'm going to address his concerns and my own issues I have. Right. When the late President, Professor Mills, passed on and questions were being asked as to what really happened to him, we had our friends who were in government saying that no, we don't need to talk about those things. How he was conveyed to 37 from the castle, which car, we were told there was no ambulance and all that. Cause of death, nobody knows. We were told that he was sent to maternity ward, etc., etc. The NDC's position then in government was that, look, there's no need to go into these matters. We are in a state of mourning. Let's honor the dead. I think that position they took and the position they are taking now vary, in the sense that a vice president has passed on. We are told that he was exercising at a gym and he suddenly had, a seizure. Eventually he was conveyed and to the 37 military hospital and he passed on. I would have thought that the NDC as a party, would have respected the statement issued by the family of the late vice president. That look, they want decorum, they want people to respect their departed family member and take away the politics in this whole matter. But to attempt to score cheap political points, now talking about your achievement, that something was not there and all that, I think it will not be helpful. Look, I was an assemblyman, a presiding member, became an MP. Winneba Government Hospital. The only time we had an ambulance in this Fourth Republic was somewhere 2002, when Mother and Child Foundation, President Kufuor's wife, brought us an ambulance. Before then, we had an old ambulance that broke down, and there was no ambulance at Winneba Government Hospital. We had another 8 years of NDC administration where the member of parliament was in cabinet, was a cabinet minister, and there was no ambulance. It took my opposition hard earnings in the private sector to buy a Mercedes-Benz ambulance. And later, a prominent citizen of Efutu, Alhaji Labaran, also bought another ambulance for the Winneba Government Hospital. We have a general problem in all sectors of our economy.
Is there a problem, or we are not paying attention to the
May I address you with respect? We have a general problem in all sectors of our economy. Water, electricity, health, education, etc., etc. I think that the discussion should be more to a certain direction where, as Ghanaians, we would ensure efficiency and let government drum home the need for government to improve on social services. And I agree. Because that is what
Ochin is saying.
I agree. That is also my position. Okay. If I go to, as we speak today, right, I have Director of Education Winneba, Efutu, bringing me a tall list about the needs of our various schools, what teachers need. I have the trauma hospital, Dr. Pra, bringing me a list of items they need. Municipal Director of Agric coming to tell you what they need. They need some from mainstream government pairs. As an MP, they were also appealing to you, our farmers, vegetable farmers, etc., etc. They would always need an improved services, roads. So these things will be there. It is for us to now also lobby and push through and ensure that the right things are done for the benefit of our people. And if anybody is in opposition and is making a demand on government to deliver, it is his right to do so. Okay. If anybody is in civil society in the media and his demand. After all, that is the core function of government. So there's nothing wrong with it.
So the question is,
however,
is it that we don't have, or we don't prioritize?
However, to now link it to the death of a vice president and try to suggest that, oh, a government, Nanado's government is a sleeping government, I would disagree, because you are now getting into that partisan line.
You're writing to Kwame, not your
No. I'm addressing Kwame. You had every opportunity to improve on education in this country. You said it was not possible. Somebody comes in, you now say that, oh, implement it and let's see. It doesn't delay. Straight away, free SHS is implemented. The government is addressing the unemployment situation in this country. At least, please. Don't go to I kept quiet for you.
Kwame, he's coming.
Kwame, I kept quiet for you.
I was going to ask him that.
Kwame, I kept quiet for you. Through the introduction of the NAPCO, so that in the short term, some of our graduates would get something to do whilst we address the long-term issues. The ambulances that we have talked about, now I'm coming to that you procure so much. Look, if you enter into a contract, you deliver on the terms of the contract. If you deliver substandard, you don't expect that the contracting party, the buyer, would take it. If that is taken, it means that the whole thing cannot function to specification, and it will, if any payment is made thereof, it will amount to financial loss to the state. So I don't want us to engage the NDC to engage in cheap political propaganda here, because we've seen them in their reaction to the decision by the Chief Justice Committee in recommending the removal of the EC chair.
You had earlier,
and they tried to push it on the president that this is political, and he doesn't like the EC chair.
You just said right here,
which is not right.
Opposition asking government to do something isn't wrong. You just said right here.
Of course, and I've not changed my position on that.
Okay, so
that is what is supposed to be done.
But you are saying that the NDC should not ask government for ambulance.
I am saying that the debate on board on their side now is being mounted malafide.
Okay, what is that?
Bad faith. Bad faith.
I see.
You don't wait for the death of a respected statesman to now wage a political war. You had 8 years.
So
in this Fourth Republic,
then it means that you also disagree with Oche when he said
no, right? I have not said that. I have not said that. Get my argument in context. We are in a state of mourning, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
They themselves were going to congregate at Obrasport. They themselves were going to do that to begin a protest. Nobody understood why they were going to engage in that protest until they heard of the unfortunate death of Vice President Emisatha. Why would they now shift the post and engage in some other political debate that but there was lack of facilities, we didn't have this and they did better, and we've had 18 years of doing nothing? If you now want to forget that 18 months, if you don't want us to mourn our respected statesman, if you don't want us to mourn him, and you've demonstrated clearly that you don't want us to mourn him, you want us to still do the partisan politics,
I still want us to stay on your Chihin's issue.
No, I even asked him a question as to why the president has failed to declare
okay.
Aliuma, very well, let me respond. Let me respond. Let me respond.
We declared 5 days.
Let me respond.
Okay,
let me respond to
right.
First of all, if you want the state to declare,
not if I want.
Oh, that's what you want. Is that not your demand?
That is befitting. That is respectful to the late
no,
president.
Come on. So you are saying that the fact that a state of national mourning has not been declared,
yes,
would Come on, can I finish?
What would you recommend if you have
I'm not the president.
But I'm just picking your brains on it.
I'm not the president.
I know.
But I am pretty sure that Mr. President himself, a statesman, knows what to do to honor the departed statesman.
If you were,
I am saying that the president knows what to do.
But if you were to advise the president, would you recommend that it is done?
If I'm to advise the president, yes, I would advise that Mr. President do that which would be appropriate to honor.
Because you won't add
tell the president to declare
mourning
a state of mourning
for the departed vice president.
Right.
Say it. Tell the president to declare the state of mourning.
To honor an individual is not limited to a particular act.
Declaring a state of mourning.
I'm saying that to honor is not limited to a particular act.
Okay.
And Mr. President, having been in politics for over 40 years, all right, knows what to do.
Which doesn't include the state of mourning.
I'm saying that he knows what to do.
Okay.
And he will do what is right
after the burial
to honor the departed.
Okay, I'm grateful. But let's quickly touch on this one before we leave. I'm asking this question because this issue of the ambulances and the fact that they do not meet specification, what quickly can we do? Let me pick your brains. I'm asking this because if you go to the 3 northern regions, they are using motorcycles with a metal bucket and something that looks like a bed in it. It's all over the 3 northern regions. Now, I am not too sure if that is the standard that we're looking for. Now, how do we quickly deal with these ambulances that do not meet specifications and get them onto our facilities?
It's a matter of, specifically on those ones,
yes,
it's a matter of the terms of the contract. If you put in a bid and you give your engineering specification and you supply and same does not meet, clearly the buyer cannot accept it, the state cannot accept it. So let that be understood.
Okay.
However,
in the state in which we find ourselves,
there is an urgent need. There is an urgent need for the Ministry of Health to put in place measures to make ambulances available for our various health facilities.
So we buy new ones?
Obviously, that's why I'm saying that there's an urgent need for the Ministry of Health to put in place measures to ensure that we have what is reasonably sufficient to meet our demands. Because we need ambulances in our hospitals. I mean, hospitals in the 3 northern regions, not only there, Volta, all over the country. We need ambulances. We need, like I said, in my own constituency, since the 4th Republic, the only one we had was the one from Mrs. Teresa Kufuor, our former First Lady, and which broke down after some 2 or 3 years. And it took my personal effort and another public-spirited, respected citizen of Ifutu to get another one. So at least we have 2. But even trauma, I'm told that in some emergencies, they would even require more than 1, because at trauma hospital there is 1. They are saying they need 2 and order. So all I'm trying to say is that for health facilities and amenities we need, one of the TV stations went to a CHIPS compound at a place called Inswechi. And they brought me the report that, Honorable, your people need this, that, and all that. If you go to government hospital, the theater, they need expansion. That is being done. So as for amenities or facilities at our various health centers, at our educational institutions and other sectors, the demand will continue to be there. What is important is for us to make the effort proactively to resolve these. I have not spoken.
It's something we can do quickly. It looks like we've been talking and talking. Nothing seemed to happen.
No, if we say nothing seemed to happen, there would be a disagreement. Rather, I would say that the slow pace is a factor, and the fact that there are competing demands in all other areas
Is this not a priority?
No. I'm saying that education is equally a priority.
But if people are not healthy, they can't go to school.
I agree.
So first,
I am not saying that we don't need water. I'm not saying that we don't need electricity. We need electricity as much as we need facilities at our health support services in our health facilities. We need to train our children. We need to educate our children. So I'm saying that all these have their own competing demands. However, like you said, you need to do some prioritization, and I'm sure that our sector ministers who have been well placed know the duties are next to their offices, and with the budgetary support they have, no matter how limited it may appear to be, effort will be made to address some of these things. On the issue of ambulances, clearly I cannot quote the Minister of Health officially, but informally I know steps that are being taken to ensure that some areas that critically need ambulances are provided.
I can quote a Deputy Minister of Health, Madam Tina Mensah, who told us, I think that was in December 2017, that she's been to Germany and she's gone to see this tricycle ambulances we're using the 3 northern. She thinks they are good and they can be used. So then the key question is the timing, how to quickly bring them in, because the impact is being felt. Last, if you remember a few weeks ago, one man had to run from one facility to the other, and even if it was an ambulance, perhaps we could have saved him even whilst in it and was going
right.
down.
Simply put, there is an urgent need to provide support services for some of these facilities, including ambulances. Some health facilities that have been completed, that are awaiting commissioning, effort would have to be made as urgently as possible to ensure that these facilities are commissioned. Again, issues that have to do with law, litigation, there's a need for these referrals to be dealt with as urgently as possible. So for instance, there wouldn't be a need for anybody to now take a video or pictures and say that, why is it that these cars, these pickups, these 4-wheel drives are parked in somebody's warehouse or are parked at a warehouse and they are not being distributed to our schools? I agree. Obviously, you know this country. If upon assumption of office, the MPP had rushed in taking certain decisions, the same opposition will say that, hey, they are arresting people. Hey, they are taking the laws into their own hands. I can tell you for a fact that there were a lot of irregularities that were so detected in some of these procurement issues. And the president is a man who believes in the rule of law and due process. Even where he has done nothing, the opposition will find a way. So now you are caught in between the devil and the deep blue sea. You want the right thing to be done. You have detected an irregularity. You want the system to address it so that you take a decision. There is also an urgent need for that facility. So what do? I think it's a real dilemma, but this government would get out of it and ensure that the Ghanaian who is the beneficiary would benefit from it without any further suffering.
Okay, I'm grateful, Kwame. Yes. So, and that's the argument is that, well, measures are being put in to get these ambulances for these facilities.
Contrary to that, Bright, the truth is that if you look at the health budget, there's nothing in the budget for these ambulances he's talking about.
Please, do you have the budget? Right, put him to strict.
As I said,
do you have the budget?
I said, quote me. I didn't even interject. You see, that time is running. So
if you want,
I'm saying there's nothing in the 2018 budget to buy ambulances. I agree with him. The ambulances that we talked about, the 30 or so that have been packed, even if we were to have the 30, it would have solved the problem. because even at that, I mean, majority.
Kwame, thank you for your sincerity.
Majority, of course. And even,
I mean, I'm happy if we begin to engage in it this way.
The procurement process, in fact, it was the NDC government that rejected those.
But Kwame, is 30 at least won't solve a problem? Is that what you're suggesting?
What I'm saying is that I agree with him when he says that the process. I mean, every procurement contract is like a law. The law you want to write to govern it. If sections of that agreement have been breached in terms of specification,
all right,
the one party, which is the client, in this case, Ministry of Health, can decide to say this is not what we specify. They can reject it.
Okay.
It is now upon government to activate the remedy, whether we are rejecting it and then sanctioning you, or to just tell you to bring a replacement. That is another matter for the evidence. But Bright, the truth is that the problems we have are not limited to healthcare. Even if every district is provided with an ambulance today, it wouldn't have taken the problem about healthcare away. You asked a very, very important question. What is President Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia's vision for healthcare in this country? None. Zero. All they will tell you is they've restored nurses training allowance, as if that would bring buildings, that would train more doctors, that will bring the ambulances. So you see, it is a high time this country we do something. Is it simply the case that when political parties promise something, even if they promise the wrong things, when they are in government, we just hold them to do the wrong things? Or should we say that you are here on our mandate? This is our priority. Currently, you should ask yourself, what is NPP's big idea about healthcare? There's none. You see, not too long ago, the finance minister will soon be in parliament. You will hear how he will be talking about the debt. Right. What you call debt, which I've always sat on this program and call investment. When you build Ridge Hospital, when you build, how do you call it, a hospital at Dodowa and other thing, I don't call it debt, I call it investment. You are providing investment so that I will be safe. When you build schools, when you build hospitals, this week, the president will be cutting salt for Pokwasi. I am sure when they were adding the debt of NDC, the interchange. Okay. In fact, there was a government appointee now who used to tease Felix Kwachi of posting Photoshop. The artistic impression of that interchange, he was mocking. But this is the president who will be cutting salt. And that money for this project, which was secured in 2016, was added to the debt NDC left. Shamelessly, he will go and cut the sword and let his government look like he's doing something, and he himself hasn't done anything about our road sector. So I'm saying that we can go on talking about these things. We have become a nation of talkers, led by the MPP, who talk so much, do nothing at all about our healthcare system. Today is the demise of our former vice president. I'm saying, I am insisting.
As a result of
the inability.
As a result of
the inability of President Akufo-Addo to declare even 1 hour of mourning for our late edition is a tragedy. It doesn't show he's committed to the mourning of the vice president. And I'm saying that the circumstances surrounding how he died and how a defense minister was on social media sharing information about what happened at that base needs a public inquiry as to how he died. This is different. This is different. Of course.
Okay.
Come on. Kwame, Bright.
I think Kwame has made his point. Okay, we want to react. Please react.
You don't just make a point, but the reasoning behind making the point must be consistent with common sense and logic.
I said I'm not satisfied with what happened to him.
No, with the greatest respect.
There are stories told. I'm not satisfied. I want an inquiry. I'm not satisfied that the things were the necessary things.
Another thing, Mark, is that okay? He said he's not satisfied, so he wants an inquiry.
That defense minister, could he have been busy organizing for the former vice president to be safe rather than be on social media sharing what cannot be said here?
All right.
Right.
I was moving on.
Right. You see, Kwame knows the defense minister.
No, I said a defense minister. I didn't say whether it's a substantive, the deputy or anything. I said a defense minister.
Okay.
My friend, if you are not bold,
all right,
don't be making points. You are no more bold. A defense minister, you are afraid of what you are saying. It's a big shame. I didn't know you to be a coward. Make your point and defend it. Which defense minister?
You saw it on your social.
Which, so what? I don't know what you are talking about.
Okay. That is
so what defense minister are talking about?
When the inquiry comes,
when the inquiry is live, then you, as a petitioner, complainant, you are not ready. Listen, hold on. Don't say we. You say you. You are not we. What is we? We as in our party. Listen, right.
Quickly, we are running out of time.
We're making political arguments, but at least let's be fair. You can't be overly speculative. You are saying that the defense minister. Now you say a defense minister. Former or present.
A defense minister.
A defense minister.
Yes. Join the inquiry to open.
Please, I have moved on. Say.
You can't even particularize your...
The final this morning says that pressure is mounting on the president to appoint 4 new commissioners, including a new electoral commission chairperson. Pressure is mounting from all angles on how he should go about it. That's fine.
Right, call him afraid man. He can't even make his point. You make a point, you are afraid, and you are talking.
No, if he had said the defense minister, I was going to ask him to mention. Why he said a defense? I don't even know if he's talking about defense minister from Nigeria. That's why I said
the inquiry will all of it will come in the world.
My grandmother will say tria.
Okay, all right. So the story is that the president is under pressure from all angles to appoint the commissioners, including the chairperson. And the key thing is how the president should go about it. Honorable Finyamaki, how should the president go about this?
You remember I was in court. I represented
SCA I know, yeah.
On this issue of advice, the issue of
whether
the appointment itself is effected by the president or that he commissions the Council of State
to do it.
Or state, constitutional bodies to do it, and then whatever they recommend to him, he acts on it. But look, the Supreme Court has made a determination, and I'm sure
should not consult the Council of State.
I'm sure. No, I don't have the judgment here, but the Supreme Court has made a determination on the matter, and I'm sure the locus classicus is there, and also so it's for the president to follow what has been determined as
by the court,
and then appoint someone. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that we need somebody who would demonstrate absolute neutrality and give confidence to all parties that have this and that are engaged in this enterprise of party politics. Certainly, you sitting here, if I don't have confidence in you, if I think you are overly biased, I may not come here. Same. You may have your own views on matters, but at least you try to balance it off so that in the minimum, we don't unduly suspect you. Although sometimes I suspect you. So I think that would clearly be the consideration. He's a senior most referee. We expect the referee to be a listening referee. We expect that referee to put in place all steps in ensuring a free and fair elections. Well, from 92 to date, we've not had serious problems. We've rather been reforming the process of elections, the electoral roll and all that. One of the things that I would expect any new chair of the EC to undertake is a commencement of a new registration exercise. That is my first expectation. Not my demand though, but that is my first expectation. Although we successfully had a 2016 election, I still think that we should clean up the electoral roll, and we can only clean it up if we start a new registration. In any event, the old one, the one that subsists now, has been there since 2012. We are in 2018. So if you calculate the number of years, I mean, with all the concerns...
6 years enough to call for a new one?
Well, but before the 2012, we had one in 2008. And we had just used it for 4 years. So clearly, if we are calling for a new register, where all of us will go and queue and register, and with the Ghana card also in now, if we're able to all do our best to get our Ghana card, that would be much more easier for us when you queue up at the centers to register.
Okay.
For the purpose of election. So that is my expectation.
Okay. All right.
But then, right, to conclude, it is most unfortunate that the NDC has found a way to politicize this issue. And to me, that is a danger we have as a country. Can't we agree to insulate certain matters from unnecessary political debates? We have a constitutional process, and the Constitution itself has provided for us how we should do certain things. When that is given effect to, then we get up and say, oh, it's a political influence. When the person has a right or his right in law, we still want a party to come to his or her rescue. I mean, who does this? Can we grow this economy? It is like the way today. You fear me, I fear you. Why? Because everybody is having a small gadget on himself or herself. I will record you. We have hailed recording, forgetting that we have a constitution, we have a law in this country. Anybody anywhere, oh, I recorded, then they play. Then before you even would respond, the damage has been made.
I've run out of time, but let me go to Kwame.
To run this country?
But I've run out of time, but let me go to Kwame. But there's the argument by some, and I've heard a governance expert say that, look, the NPP, some members of the NPP politicized the issue when they made it clear that when they have political power,
Were these the people
they will remove the chairperson of the
Good.
Electoral Commission.
Are these the people?
So
his argument was that
removing
Charlotte?
No, his argument was
it's
that
it's
when
a
you throw in that, then
you
muddy the whole situation.
It's a constitutional system.
It is.
That is removing Charlotte Osei. The petitioners are not the people in MPP who said that we want to remove.
Exactly the point he made.
It is the staff.
But he said that
it is
that
the staff
perception
of
that came from some members.
So
of
let's
the
help to deal with that perception.
Okay.
Let's explain for those of us, you and I, including Kwame, who know that it is not MPP people who have removed. Bear in mind that the staff of EC petitioned the president against the EC chair. A member of the NDC, a card-bearing member of the NDC, also petitioned the president with respect to the two deputies.
Okay.
So if there's anything partisan at all, if there's anything partisan at all, it is rather an NDC activist party member who has petitioned and has successfully gotten two deputies, Amadou Sule and Mrs. Opoku Amankwa, removed.
Okay, it's okay. Let me get.
I hope I'll have enough time.
Be smart about it. We don't have a lot of time.
Right. Let's applaud the NPP for actually breaking one of their own record. Since the inception of this government, every committee set up by this government have cleared everybody. Even the ones we caught red-handed. Committees set up by this government have cleared them.
What committee?
For the first time in the history under President Akufo-Addo, he's found somebody guilty. And who is talking to me about this is not NPP? Leading members of NPP, as I'm speaking, they are probably with the president at the Flagstaff House at his house. I've already said they will remove the EC chair. And he's talking about we should insulate some institutions. My brother, we were in parliament, a colleague of ours said that Charlotte Osei got her job because she slept with somebody else.
And said that today, in parliament?
No, a colleague of ours. You see, let's face this thing.
No.
Today,
you are digressing. No. You are not speaking to the issue.
Because I don't have a lot of time.
No. You are not speaking to the issue. Speak to the issue.
I am saying this to the country. The NPP has decided to dismantle the peaceful electoral ecosystem that we have, and to recalibrate the system to suit their political ends. Today,
is the president not working? Because
no. Listen, I can tell you
under the articles he's using,
there's a petition for the removal of the chief justice today. Ask whether it's true. Why is he not acting on that one? There's a petition for the removal.
By who?
Listen.
By who?
Listen.
By who?
Let no Ghanaian.
By who?
Let no Ghanaian make a mistake. What we are watching NPP do day after day. And then I was so disappointed when I'm told that the Peace Council made a comment. Which, you see,
I'm not too sure whether the chairperson of the Ashanti Region Peace Council is speaking on behalf of it, but that's the story we're told.
You see, right. We are watching the MPP dismantle peace in this country. I'm repeating it. And nobody is talking. All they have been doing so far is to dismantle the institutions that hold us together peacefully, so that they will institute a new electoral architecture to suit their long-term gains. Right.
How does it benefit
us? This is storing disaster for the future. I am saying the removal of Madam Charlotte Osei is an NPP agenda. The use of that committee...
Despite the committee's report, the fact that it's a constitutional thing, the president only had to act.
If we want to actually sack people from work for wrongful procurement processes, I doubt even if the president would have been in office by now. He should have been sacked. So if you want to use that as a basis, but I know they haven't leveled any criminal act against her, and I'm saying that this is a bad precedent for the future. And I'm saying that people are saying NDC is not defending anybody. For me, the removal of EC, and we are talking about who to replace. Are you expecting me that anybody
your party member petition
anybody appointed by the President Akufo-Addo, I should trust that person? Are you expecting me to trust that person? He can look. You know what? President Akufo-Addo.
You have not asked him a question.
President Akufo-Addo.
Your party member.
President Akufo-Addo can even appoint his wife as EC. Ghanaians will speak in 2020. He can even appoint the vice president as EC chair. Ghanaians will speak in 2020 and they'll speak loudly. And anybody who thinks this recalibration will be a way of usurping the rights and the will of the people in 2020, be ready for it. It will not be easy.
Okay, Kwame, I'm grateful. Kwame Abuja is a member of parliament for
petition
the Adaklu constituency. He's a member of the NDC.
Petition
against is a member of parliament for the Futu constituency. He's a member of the NPP.
Your party member petition against the two deputies.
Thanks so much for staying there. We'll take you to Russia when we're back. Good morning once again.
Are we still in?
Well, the New Day team visited the former deputy chair of the Electoral Commission in the person of David Adanzi Kanga in the Upper East region where he lives. And he talks to us about his tenure as EC deputy and also how things have evolved. Let's see this.
I do not think the EC is bedeviled with too many functions. I believe that all the functions of the EC are interrelated, and because they are interrelated, it will not be really very good for any other entity to be to have responsibility for some of those functions. I believe that the EC, if we can look at the structure again and make sure that we do not have, personality clashes. Like, what I mean is that if they are to be two deputies, we should be sure that one deputy maybe a senior to the other deputy. So there is a good structural flow. As it is, when there are two deputies, then you find that there's a level where you are not sure whether it is one side or the other. Some overlapping will be taking place. The very first time, that is the early 90s, the biggest challenge we had was the lack of a forum for the EC to interface with political parties and other stakeholders, especially you know, the NGOs and then the media. But the first one, the political parties, we were able to get sort of a solution by establishing the inter-party advisory committee, which actually also acted as a consultative forum between the Electoral Commission and the political parties. And I believe it was very effective. Like any other institution, the donors monitored the use of their funds, and the funds were generally received and disbursed from the general accounts of funds of the commission. In fact, some of it was, you know, you see some of the additions were disbursed by the donors, direct to, if there were supplies that could be, you know, channeled through the donor. But whatever was the case, the funds were treated as commission funds and therefore disbursed from the accounts, the finances of the commission. Due diligence is very important, and I do believe that if you do not critically examine what you are going to do, you might run into problem, because you know the EC deals with political parties almost on daily basis, and you know how they will normally be very critical in how things are going about. Things are going on. We were human beings, and we sometimes had divergent views on some issues, but we never allowed those differences to play into the official, into the work of the commission. In fact, we never had a situation where we had to ask somebody to intervene or anybody to intervene to resolve it. There was almost no need for us to look for a third party. Every entity, you need cooperation, you need everybody to be on board, and you need leadership that will get everybody working. And I think we had that. You know, the important thing is that the Electoral Commission's work is mainly operational. It's about preparing and employing logistics. And when I say logistics, I also mean human beings, deploying them to the right places at the right time, and making sure that activities are carried out on time. If I have to look back, the EC is like my home. And if I'm going home to a house that people are pointing fingers at, you definitely I won't feel happy. So I've not been very happy with the situation. It's a sad situation. Generally, I want to be an educator, and the EC work, because you need to continuously educate people on how to do the work. It was very heartwarming for me to work at the EC. If I have to, if I have the energy and I have to go back to a place, why not? I'll go back there.
Well, and that was former Deputy Chair for the Electoral Commission, David Kanga, talking to us there. We'll take a break. We'll be back talking about the EC and the way forward. Let's take a break. Well, so we all know the EC chairperson and her two deputies were removed from office as at Friday last week. Well, matters arising thereof have to be discussed because it means a lot for the Electoral Commission and its activities. Joining me to talk about this, I have Paul Abrampa-Mensah. He's a senior programs officer for the Center for Democratic Development, and also Kwame Damwa. He's a former chief director at the Electoral Commission. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. I'll start with you, Mr. Damwa, because you have been at the helm of affairs. I want to find out what exactly this means for the EC in terms of the infights and its agenda. It has a mandate to, perform in this particular calendar year of 2018. And with all this coming up, how is that going to impact on the activities?
Well, to have a whole lot of problems for the Commission. Time is of essence. Right. That's like exercises bill for this 2018. We have the newly proposed regional boundaries to be created, referendum. And then we are thinking about next year, the DC level elections, right, which is more difficult than even the national election. Aside of that, they are talking about DCs, MCs to be elected. That one too is another referendum. By now, the program should have been out. But no program has come out. Right. Because the directorate can prepare the program. But unfortunately, without the fiat of the commission, which is the policy-making body, nothing can take place. And with whatever has come out from this investigation, we could see that there was no such cooperation among the commissioners, right, for any of them to stand out to pronounce directions to the the directorate. Aside of that, the directors, no corporate governance is happening at the directorate. Because since I left 2004, the position of chief director has been abolished. No coordinating director has been appointed. So the directors are doing individual work instead of having a coordinating point. And in my time, when I was the chief director, I was meeting my directors at headquarters, calling regions to know what was happening, and appraising the commission. So in that linkage, you get the mind of the commission. Right. So if a director is contacted, say by the press or anybody, he can know how far he can go, because you know the thinking of your commission. But right now, there's nothing of the sort. Wow. So there are a whole lot of fallout from this. But it will all depend. If the president, on the advice of the Council of State, will very soon appoint commissioners, right, then they will need to sensitize them, especially the appointee should know that integrity is key. Right. And your personal independence, they show that you are independent of any authority, should very be apparent. That will then start to build the image. And then these directors should be schooled, sensitized to know their rights. They are citizens. They have the right to vote. So they have some political thinking. But if you are a staff, you don't have to let your political feelings be apparent to anybody. You work to the success of the commission, not your personal self. Very well. Mr. Abrampa-Mensah, let me come to you with this question, because the president in his speech in Nouakchott, Mauritania, said he had no other option but to go by what the committee had suggested to him, which was to remove the EC chair and her deputies from office. In CDD's view, is this how he could have proceeded, or did he have alternatives to this? Yeah,
let me say a very good morning again, and let me also take this opportunity to express my condolences to the families of our cherished former Vice President, Misata, the wife, the NDC, and indeed the entire country, as we mourn one of our dedicated servicemen who just passed away. My sister, let me come back to your question. We are a republic. We entered into a constitutional democracy in 1992, and we've operated democracy since then. In democracy, just like an ardent Christian, your tool is your Bible. Here, our tool is our constitution. If we allow the president to have gone using his own pronouncement, I think different things might have happened to us as citizens. So anything that we do, we must be guided by the tenets of the Constitution as they expressed. I side with the president. When I read the Constitution, it's clear that when it is pronounced, the president shall abide by the report recommendations of the committee. So the president may not have alternative than to go by that. After you receive the petition, the complaints against specific commission members that needs to be tackled with, as far as you want to sack them, be the constitution, or not that you want to sack them, petition has been brought against them. You refer the processes have been, I just want to summarize that the processes have been followed. It was up to the committee to exonerate Charlotte and her 2 deputies and recommend to the president that for what we saw, based on the allegations brought against themselves, I would say this I call a self-inflicted sacking. Based on the allegations brought against themselves, we did not find anything substantial that could lead to us advising you or recommending for their sacking. But the report was clear. I don't know whether you've got a copy to read through. The report was clear. So the president, as he said, Mauritania is in accordance with the article providing the constitution.
Very well. But would you also say that the situation has been politicized, because people put this in tandem with what happened to the Shraj office when former President Mahama asked the removal of the Shraj boss, saying that they had flouted some rules. People say that this is not the same in, Madame Charlotte Osei's situation, because she flouted procurement law, which is not her core mandate. What would you say about that?
What is whose core mandate? The Electoral Commission is formed to supervise elections or electoral activities. So I say electoral activities, it includes all that gets involved in election, demarcation of constituencies, education, compilation of voter roll and other things. In each of these activities, it takes hard-earned Ghanaian currency to implement. You remember when after the suspension of the 2015 local government elections, the extra budget put to Parliament, so over 90 million Ghana cedis. That's money we're talking about. So anybody that's given a mandate is giving resources to back it. When you go to the directive principle of state policy, chapter 7, 19 and 2 constitution, so it is up to every Ghanaian to protect resources of the country, let alone the person who has been automatically handed resources to cover. So I don't see the comparison that people are making here. If indeed, if you read the directive principle of state policy, excuse me, if you use it in here, you see a wrong, that's why we have citizens law. If you see something that wrong that is going on, you can take it up, report to the courts, and the fellow will be investigated, because it's your taxpayers' money, because it's our resources. So I don't see the comparison they are making here.
Very well. Mr. Dama, what would you say about this particular politicization of the issue?
Well, there is no need to have any politicization because the due process has been followed. I don't see the linkage of politics into this. It is the responsibility of the president to act on the submission of that committee, and he has acted. So why do you have to bring in politics? You see, I don't see it. Ghana here, this is our bane. We are always politicizing every issue instead of seeing to it that we are obeying our rules and regulations to carry us to development. So I don't see there's any politicization. There's no need for it.
Very well. But also people have made claims to the fact that it seems the president is cherry picking, because there are some situations that have been recommended by a council of state or others, and the president hasn't taken any initiative on these things. Even concerning the Disability Act, which was supposed to be passed, it hasn't been, and this is sitting at the president's table. And so why hasn't he acted on this? But with the EC issue, he went in quickly to act on it.
Well, the disability, this thing has to go through Parliament. I don't know whether Cabinet wants to make additional inputs or anything. That much I can't. But this particular issue is legal setup specific. So if you follow the due process, I don't see anything wrong.
Very well.
Yeah.
There may be issues in the country running. I'm not saying that certain issues are so much important than others, but there are certain issues that impact on the basis of democracy and governance in the country. Right. One of the issues is elections issues we're talking about. People have put Ghana as beacon of democracy, not because we have had leaders who have been able to handle affairs well, not only that, but because we've been able to walk through elections successfully, to have about 3 times changing of governments without having any problems like our sister countries are having. All these things are happening and accepted because people did have trust and put the elections management body in a certain standard of integrity. These 2 basic things have formed us. So if there was anything that seeks to bring the integrity and the trust of the populace in the commission down, it is very much paramount to any other governance issues that we have in the country. So I don't see why people are comparing some of these things to. Let me give you a scenario. After the 2012 electoral petition that was pronounced in 2013, the first survey that Kodio CDD did had put electoral commission's integrity below 40%. So somebody who understands elections, when you get such figures, you begin to worry. Because then there has been a lowered standard that brings 2 issues. One, either people will try to take the law into their own hands during election at the polling centers because then they don't trust the electoral commission. So they will do everything they can. That brings conflict. 2, other people who are mass against the electoral commission, not only at the head office. Was it the 10 electoral commission office that was burnt?
Yeah, it was burnt.
Not only at the head office, they attack your people in your districts. So distortion. And the 3rd one is general rejection of your election results. If it happens this way, then it means the electoral commission's integrity, trust, everything has deteriorated. So if any government sits down, if any public sits down for some of these things brought against the commission, not only bringing it against the commission itself, the 3 leading members of the commission counter-accusing themselves. Or the basis, some of the allegations that came up of the fact that somebody transferred votes illegally. Look at the impact of that statement on the election outcomes in the country. Here we were before the 2016 elections, there have been a hula baloo as to ghost polling stations, over bloated voter register, came a day of no new register, no voting, all these things came about. And now there seems to be a credence in those allegations that were coming up. We are heading to another elections. Will the people accept same integrity, same people to have that integrity to organize it? So it's not just a mere issue of allegation against the commission, that comparing issues running in the country to that of the electoral commission. It's an institution that we need to handle it and handle it well with all the care that we need to maintain the trust and integrity so as to be able to accept it by the populace.
Very well. So on that very note, how do we move forward and give, credibility, the trust and the, integrity back into the Electoral Commission amidst all this, Mr. Damwa?
Well, it will all start from replacement of those who have been removed from office.
Very well.
The kind of selection that will be done. By law, it is the Council of State that should advise the President as to people they recommend for appointment. First and foremost, the search should settle on people with integrity. People they think are independent-minded, not necessarily just swaying to anybody's whims and caprices. Such people are those who may be qualified to be appointed. Aside of that, when they meet as a body after they have been inaugurated, they should do a sensitization to be sure that they understand what they mean by integrity and how you carry yourself when you are in office. And then they should focus on the staff. Currently, as I said earlier, they seem not to have any leadership. They have to put corporate governance in place, structures that will let the staff recognize who is my point of contact. They do that and motivate the staff also to be sensitized to know that they are citizens in the first place, they have the vote. But by working in the commission, your political leaning should not be apparent. Work to the interest of the core mandate of the commission. All these things should be done. Then they should have interaction with the stakeholders. Their inputs are very key. And that will be for the start.
Very well.
Yeah, I think Mr. Amwa, being an experienced person in the field, he has handled affairs before after his retirement, has said it all. Yes, who succeeds the 3 commissioners? Very much important. I said it somewhere and I'll repeat. I don't think Nana Akufo-Addo is also having it easy. Because if you're a statesman and you actually think of your states, this is a time that you act for people to know. The person you appoint today handles the future of the future of the country. You may be in governance today that you think we may appoint somebody who could toast to your wishes. If that person hasn't got that integrity, no matter who appointed him, if you go into opposition, he will do the same thing to you. So we need to have one, as Mr. Amwa said, who is a statesman, somebody who cherishes Ghana, somebody who at any point in time will die for Ghana. And I think there are a host of Ghanaians out there that when we broaden our search, when we broaden our consultation, we'll have to have that man with integrity. Not only having integrity for himself, can bring that integrity to bear on the commission itself. Because now I think we are fortunate this committee sitting was in camera. Not like the 2012 election petition that we televised for everybody to see the rots at the commission. This that started less those who are eager to read can know the details. The other man on the street doesn't know what is happening. This illegal transfer and other things are not heard loud by people. Otherwise, it was going to be something so serious to dent the image of the commission. So we need to have somebody who will be a manager, somebody who will be a leader, to bring that his experience and integrity to bear on the commission in totality.
Right, but if the president gave you the chance to give him an idea or suggestion as to how to have these broader consultations to be able to get the people we very well talk about, what would you be telling him?
People have worked with institutions. People have worked with people. Ghana has stakeholdership across Ghana and beyond the Ghana borders. We have had people with integrity who recommend. Honorable Chambers was a Ghanaian, but recommended that he's doing well somewhere. We have such people in the country with background check, thorough background check. You've worked here. If there's a position at NMC that if approved TV3 that we want to engage this your young lady, what can she do? They tell, oh, this lady is temperamental. No, this lady is hardworking, but this is her flaw. When I was being appointed at CDD, I didn't know they had gone to political science department to do background check. When I came, President Jambody told me, Prof. Kwame Nkrumah, because Jonas said 1, 2, 3, but they said this is what you are weak at. So you need to work at it. Yeah. So we can have that broader consultation, background check, bring a person that have worked in the system, that people adore, that people know he has that man character that we want.
Very well. Mr. Damwa, off the top of your head, having worked with the EC, are there some names you can suggest? And also, what would you be telling the president for these broader consultations?
Well, for names, it's not in my mandate to mention any names. But just like my brother said, he said he's going to act on the advice of the Council of State. The Council of State, in giving the advice, the broader consultation should start from the Council of State itself. And aside of that, what I would recommend would be the Council of State may invite party leaders. We have registered political parties. They should invite party leaders first to consult them, because they are going to, the commission is the referee in the election process, and the parties are the major stakeholders. If they consult them for their views and so on, that will give them an input as to what you can propose to the president.
Very well. Very well. On that note, I'd like to thank Paul Abraham-Pamensah. He's the Senior Programs Officer at the Center for Democratic Development, and also Kwame Damwa. He's a former Chief Director at the Electoral Commission. So we've been talking about the Electoral Commission and the matters arising and whom we think